Anyway, let's turn, but I think we should keep our eyes peeled. Maybe we get a glimpse of a leopard moving around here somewhere. Now what I'm going to do actually is let me jump off here and stay with us for a second, because when you get to a junction like this, it's maybe a bit easier to find a leopard track, a fresh leopard track, see if he perhaps headed this way onto Torchwood, or if he headed down the road that way. You see, here we go. The tracks are right here. That is unfortunate. So this leopard definitely walked all the way along here. Just walked straight down this road onto Torchwood. That is really unfortunate. That is a pity. That is a pity. But we were close. This leopards walked down the road, and definitely this morning sometime, I think. And look, those tracks look fairly fresh. But you see, that's what I say. Get into an area like this, you can see we didn't really see tracks, this section of road behind us, but getting to an intersection. And the reason why they prefer walking on the roads is purely because it's a nice pathway, path of least resistance. There's not a lot of long grass, there are no trees in the way, and that's why leopards and lions like to walk on roads. But unfortunately, this leopard has crossed onto Torchwood and he's headed straight down there. You can see his tracks very clearly over there. Alright, well, it sounds like Tristan is having a lot of fun with the elephant on foot this morning. Let's go and have a look. He's found some more.
And to the other side now.
With Ellie's this morning, and being on foot with Ellie's is, like I've said time and time again this morning, is very cool. So thoroughly enjoying the fact that we're seeing Ellie's. There's a young bull that looks like he's up ahead. They can't actually see it nicely. All I can see is ears and a back, and so we're just sitting in the grass. There's really no cover between where that elephant is and where I am. It's very far away though, so I can comfortably sit here and not have to worry too much. And if I just keep a low profile like this, you'd probably find that elephant wouldn't be able to see me at all. But it's kind of moving away from us a little bit of flapping of ears. The temperature is starting to increase slightly, and so is the wind. You can actually see that the grass here is blowing quite a bit at the moment. And so the wind is starting to kick up a little bit, and the wind is blowing pretty much from us over my left shoulder, sort of across me. So that elephant where it is now is fine, but if we were to kind of move a little bit further south and closer towards the elephant, our wind is going to go straight to him, and he's going to then smell us very, very quickly. So better that we stay where we are now and just enjoy him from a longer distance. It's also, we've seen quite a few Ellies this morning already, so we don't want to push our luck. It's always good just to enjoy, like I say, from a distance and see them and then carry on. But looks like it's moving off, and so shall we. We'll just get up out of the grass, make sure that we don't disturb him, and carry on. Now, you may notice that since I've been sitting in the grass, that I'm carrying some pretty little flowers. Now, these flowers are quite interesting because they are, if you look at them, exactly the same. So there we go. Let me turn it like that. Look at the shape of the flower. Both of them are exactly the same, except that they are different colors. So what you've got is a blue commelina on my right-hand side. And, well, I'd be a bit worried if you couldn't see that that's a blue commelina. And this one is the yellow commelina. So exactly the same species of plant, just a different color type of flowers. And you can see why they're the comelinas, because of the 3 petals. So 1, 2, and then the 3rd petal underneath there. And they kind of look like a animal with big ears, and then these little yellow parts that come out of it, and then the small little petal at the bottom is almost like a little tongue. But these are really cool plants. I love these comelinas, and I was actually just saying to Ferg, how beautiful would it be to have one of those flower mantis sitting on one of these flowers, just kind of waiting out some sort of animal to come along. Now, what you do find sometimes on these is little crab spiders, so you've got to kind of look in amongst the petals, and sometimes you can actually see a little crab spider coming along. But very, very, very cool plants. I like both of these. They are amazing. Now, what you will notice is on this one, is that it's quite a dry plant. There's lots of hairs on it, not really too much in the way of moisture. But if we look at this plant here, you can see it's got a lot more moisture kind of trapped on it. And they actually have, on the blue commelina, they have this little pouch, which the yellow one has too, but it doesn't quite hold the moisture that the blue one does. Now, if I squeeze it, can you see that watery kind of sap that's coming out? You see that? So these guys hold bits of dew inside these little areas here. Helps to just keep everything nice and hydrated, and if you squeeze it, it comes out and you can actually see it like that, which is very, very cool. So it's an amazing thing to see on these plants, and when you squeeze them you can find little bits of it that they say is actually not bad as eye drops, which is pretty cool. Cheryl, you say looks very much like a dragon flower that you get. Well, that's very cool. Is your dragon flower these colors, or is it a red color, or what? How has it gotten its name? I'm quite intrigued as to know why it's called a dragon flower and what color it actually is. Careful the tree behind you, Ferg, because you're about to walk into a massive silver cluster leaf. I'll go this way. That will help you, and you don't have to walk around and backwards. So I would like to know what this sort of dragon flower looks like, and whether or not it's red. In my mind, see red. I don't know why. Maybe because kind of dragons and fire gives you red, orange kind of colors. Kathy, you want to know what they smell like? Hold on, let's have a little sniff. They don't really smell like anything, to be honest. They smell grassy, to be honest. They smell green, that kind of green, grassy sort of smell. That's how they kind of, the scent that they've got. And Ferg, you care to give them a smell? Not really flowery. Let's go. Let's make Ferg smell the blue one. Right, Ferg, blue one first. Was that good? No, they don't really have a scent at all. In fact, they smell pretty much just like you would smell grass. I thought I saw an insect there, but it was a little fly that flew away. So it's not really a kind of floral smelling plant, which is interesting because often a lot of the times when plants smell like that is to try and attract insects to be able to, fertilize, or pollinate, should I say, not fertilize, pollinate the flower and to spread it around. But maybe in this case, because they're so brightly colored, maybe that's an attractant enough to insects, and that's how insects find them in order to be able to pollinate them. But definitely no scent to them at all that makes them smell good, and so they're not attracting anybody by a scent. Good. Right, let's get rid of these and put them back into the bush. I've picked them. I don't know why I picked them. I should have just shown you. I suppose it's because that elephant was around and I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to actually get, you guys to the actual flower, or if I could have to take the flower to you. So we took the flower to you. Now, while I kind of move on and carry on, I believe my good friend Byron has gotten out of the vehicle. Hopefully he's going to be okay. One worries about babyface Byron now that he's shaved out of the car, but he's found you guys something special apparently.
Okay, now we found something really interesting. Have a look. There's very, very fresh diggings over here. I'm trying to work out exactly what it is. I'll tell you why I'm a little confused, because it looks like aardvark tracks. And I can see it looks like a small aardvark that's walked here and then has been digging here. But this little track looks a bit different. It's quite a mess. But this is fresh. I mean, this is probably last night. I'm having a look. It's dug over here too. Now, one of the ways of looking, and I've seen many aardvark diggings in other areas. I was trying to have a look in the hole itself to see the claw marks. They're amazing diggers. Now the only other thing that you know what? It's not an aardvark. I can see a clear track over here. A very, very clear track. I saw some claw marks there, but this is definitely a porcupine, everyone. That's what this is. Porcupine. There's a clear porcupine track here. But that's interesting. Now I just want to make sure, because it's made a lot of mess here. And you know what? I can actually see it looks like the roots where the porcupine is actually chewed on. I can see that over here. But there is a clear porcupine track. This was done by a porcupine. It's just so strange. This this track over here. Looks like the long toe of an aardvark. No, but here's a big pad too. You know, I think sometimes it's funny. You know, you get something in your mind that you think, oh, I hope this is what it is, and it might not necessarily be the case. Just double checking now. I can see little toe marks here, and I think this is possibly maybe just the back pad falling into the soft sand. No, this was done by a porcupine. Also, the claw marks. I want to try to show you something. The claw marks are very close together, and they're actually a lot more scratches. With the aardvark, you'd see 3 very clear claw marks coming up out of the hole. This has got a lot more. So this is a porcupine, but a big porcupine. This porcupine track, let me show you, is about that big. It's a large porcupine. It's stood over here. That's interesting. Now, these little tracks are great, and I'll tell you why I find them so fascinating. It's because you don't see them often. You don't often see porcupine tracks or fresh diggings like this during the course of the night. So that was porcupine. But you see, by process of elimination, you can work out exactly what it is. If you can't see a clear track, now let me just find. I'd like to just show you. Let me show you the difference quickly. Okay, I'll find it very quickly for us. Aardvark 164. Okay, and then let me just find the porcupine track and we can look at the difference. Okay, now let me first start with the aardvark track, so you can see that. Okay, so the aardvark track, we would be able to see. Sorry, I'm trying to hold the book open here. If you look below there, look, you see those very large 3 clear toes. We would be able to see that clearly, at least 1 or 2 tracks. There was one that looked a little bit like it, but with an aardvark digging like this, there's no mistaking it. You can see them very, very clearly. So there's 3 clear tracks, and over here you can see the holes. Unfortunately, they don't have an image. Let me just see on the next page if there's an image of the hole. No, unfortunately not. But look in the mud. I mean, those are very large toes that you could see. So in the soft sand, you would see those very, very clearly. That's not what we saw. What we saw is more along these lines. I actually want to see. Hold on. Now, have a look over here. You can see those little pads. And then also remember I spoke about the claws and there being a lot more claw marks. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in the front. So you can see, and a lot closer together compared to that of an aardvark. So this was definitely a porcupine digging. And they do have these little pads. I'll just show you on the next page quickly. The front foot, you see it's like a whole pad. Sometimes people might get a little bit confused with a honey badger, but it does look different, and you can see the breakup in the pad quite clearly. But you can see those 4 very sharp claws around there, quite close together. Excellent diggers, and yeah, so that's definitely. Do they have an image of a? Yes. I mean, a burrow used by porcupine. You can see when they do dig, they can dig quite heavily. Oh, quite a lot. Now, sorry, Faith, that question about the aardvark dens, who asked that? Christopher, sorry. So, I don't know of any active aardvark dens in this area. I think James once found an aardvark that had died in a burrow. Did he, VM? Do you remember something like that? I can't remember. I think a few years ago. Maybe I'm mistaken. But But there are aardvark here. We've seen aardvark tracks on foot, but no active aardvark den or anything that I've seen around here. Anyway, this is really interesting. Nice to see. All right, let's go across to Ellie and find out where she is.
Well, we've decided to come back to Buffelshoek Dam as the squirrel alarm callings were coming from roughly this area. Now, I think part of the problem is that they're coming from the drainage behind the dam itself, which is a very thick and overgrown area, and it's nearly impossible to try and get a car in there. Now, we heard squirrels alarming, and a Franklin also was going a little bit insane, but nothing so far. So we thought that maybe we came up here, we would have been able to pick any other noises, but seems like we haven't been particularly lucky in that regard. But it's always good to come and just stop and listen and just see if there's any indication, any sign that might pinpoint towards where someone is hiding. Now, it seems like the Egyptian geese are starting to reclaim all the areas that perhaps they didn't claim for a few days. We've got 4 of them swimming about in Buffelshoek Dam. And very likely it's the parents and the 2 goslings or the 2 chicks that managed to reach into adulthood. Now, I think they're all related because normally Egyptian geese are very territorial, and you'll find that it's often the female that goes and starts trying to push all of the creatures away, or, well, not all the creatures, but all the Egyptian geese, and she almost forces the male to get into the fight with her and just chase everybody away. They're very, very territorial birds. So I think the only reason why they're allowing this other 2 is just because they are related to them. And they do look slightly smaller than the 2 that are in the front end. So could be a possibility that we're looking at a family. I'm slightly more convinced of that than before. Sorry, Faith, can you repeat the question for me? I'm having trouble understanding, but I think it's a question if there are any animals that are banded. If that is correct. Oh, tagged. Okay. No, there are no animals that are tagged in Djuma. The only thing that if we do see an animal that's tagged or wearing a color, likely it's done for conservation purposes, but we do not do it ourselves at Djuma. They fall pretty much under the general rules of the Sabi sand, and then they will do all sorts of different things. Now, in the Sabi sand, the general consensus is that most of the animals are not notched or tagged or anything. The only ones that are notched are rhinos, just to try and keep an idea of who's who, because rhinos are very similar to one another. So they do little small cuts in the ears, and in specific areas of the ear, a little notch can mean or is associated with a specific number. So then if you add the notches on the ears, then you'll be able to tell which one exactly it is. Now, in terms of colors or any geotagging or anything like that, we don't do it here in the Sabi sand unless there's some sort of conservation study or research that's being done. When we do get animals that have colors or are geotagged, normally they come from the Kruger, where most of the research is being carried on, and it's normally to try and find out how the animals move within a space, where do they disperse to, where do they head, and so on. There was one particular male that had a collar on for a while, was a young male leopard, just to try and get an idea of the movements and dispersal of young male leopards. But he hasn't been seen for quite a while, and I don't even think he's got the collar anymore. Maybe it's fallen off. I'm not too sure, actually. I don't seem to remember. He did have one for a while, and it was showing all his movements and everything else, but we haven't received anything for quite some time, so I would assume the collar is either not working or it's been taken off. Now, I don't think that there's going to be much happening around here, so I'm going to abandon this area and start looking somewhere else. Hopefully we'll get a little bit luckier in some other spot. But I am actually going to turn around and carry on going the way that I wanted to go, which might take us onto some of the drainage lines. Maybe we'll be able to see some more things from all the way in there. Now, let's see. Alright, I think that Byron is still puzzled about who was digging what, so let's head to him and find out if it was a porcupine or an aardvark.
No, it definitely was an aardvark, Ali, but I was just double checking, because I know sometimes, and I said it earlier, how people can get confused with a honey badger track and a porcupine track, but that wasn't honey badger, that was porcupine that was digging there. But I'm just having a look, and it's so funny. They give the generic differences between honey badger and porcupine tracks, because people do make the confusion between the two at times. But yeah, no, this is that was definitely honey badger, definitely porcupine. I was hoping to find honey badger, but that digging was from a porcupine. Laura Moore, you asked if there are any quails in the area. You know what, there are. Oh, quills. Sorry, I didn't hear you, Faith. I apologize. Laura Moore, quills. You're looking for porcupine quills. No, they actually weren't. They weren't. But I always look out, and we do find, quills often on drive. Right, yeah, VM said he saw one this morning at Treehouse Dam. So they don't always just drop the quills. It's usually if they feel threatened, and they cause those quills to stand up, and they usually run back into whatever predator is around. But they don't often drop quills unless they get disturbed by something. But getting back to the quails, there are quails around here too. So porcupine, quills, and quails. I wonder what big boss man Tristan is up to. He's probably marching straight back to camp for breakfast, even though it's a little early, but he always says that about me. I think Tristan has his own agenda. Let's go find out.
Byron, we are not walking back to camp for breakfast. Some of us are trying to work out here. Some of us are trying to find special creatures. And so we are far from home. We are all the way down on Battelier, Drakensberg area, looking around for Tundi. So we are a long way from where our destination for breakfast would be. And exactly, it's interesting that he's the first one to bring up breakfast once again. You're quite right, Fergus. Well done. He's the only one that's spoken about breakfast so far this morning. And a situation where, Hippie spotted something. Hold on, Fergus. You're going to have to do that again. You want to be acrobatic again, Fergus? He runs you through, so just let Fergus through quickly, and now Herbie has found us something interesting. Well spotted, Herbie. Very, very cool. So Herbie has found us a very cool camouflaged grasshopper. Now how he sees this, I'm not quite sure, but there is the grasshopper over there. You'll see at the end of the grass stalk. Here's our little grasshopper that is sitting on a Wildebeest leaf, and it's about the same color as the leaf. Isn't that incredible that Herbie's managed to see that? I think it's amazing. And this little guy is very, very cool. He's got a sort of furry texture to him almost. Big, powerful legs and a massive, bulky head. Now, the other day we saw a grasshopper similar to this, and he was telling me, or Byron was telling me, that it's a bladder grasshopper. Now, this one doesn't look quite the same, but I wonder if it's a similar sort of species. But interestingly enough, what is also here, which Herbie has pointed out to me, is if you look down below it, Fergus, over here, you can see that this grasshopper, the reason why it's sitting so still, is that it's just gone through the first stage of its life. So it's gone from a little nymph upwards, and it's now gone from its first form to its second. So it's grown a little bit and shed its old exoskeleton, which is very, very cool. Now, it's not every day that you see the exoskeleton of one of these little grasshoppers on a leaf, so that is a super cool find. Well done, Herbie. That's amazing. Let's see if we can... Sorry, Fergus, that was me that bumped it. I just want to try and see if we can try and grab this so we can show you it's a little bit more in detail. It's still very soft. Oh no, I've dropped it. You know what's going to be better? Is if... Oh no, it's gone all the way to the bottom. This is not going well. So I'm just trying to grab it so that we can see it. Now, there comes, I'm sure, Byron or Ali past us. So look who's going home for breakfast. There goes Byron. We've just seen him drive past, and it's just shows you how hard he's looking, because he hasn't even spotted us in the bush right next to him. But there we go. I've mangled this a little bit, unfortunately, but there was a situation where we could see its head and antenna. There we go. There's its eye and its antenna in front, and then the rest of the body coming backwards, which is very cool. Now I can hear Byron giggling behind me. It's not hard actually to hear him laughing. Generally, when you just stand still for 2 seconds, you can hear Byron laughing somewhere on this property. But he's just driven past us and, like I say, heading home, I'm sure, for his breakfast, while some of us are grafting hard out here, trying to find all the animals. But how cool is that to see? So there we go, it's a little skin, effectively a skin of a grasshopper. Well done, Herbie. That was a very cool find. That's not something we get to see every single day. Good. We're going to carry on through. We're going to make Fergus walk backwards through thick vegetation, as you can see. So we'll just move that out the way. And this is an area where... Sorry, what happened? Camera malfunction. Oh no, Fergus, don't worry. It's all good. We're back. We're all good. Everything's going to be fine. Now we're going to move through these thickets, which is where Thandi was last seen. And we're going to have to be careful as we go, because if we have a look here, you can see that there is a very fresh pile of elephant dung. So there's a few flies landing on it, but look at that. If we break that open, that is about as wet as it can be and moist. So that is probably from the early hours of this morning. And so we're going to have to pay attention to what we're doing. The nice thing about this, though, is that you can see that there's fruit inside it. You can see also that there's a lot more grass than fruit is starting to take place inside these pools of dung. And there's a few little flies that are inside there as well. Little blue bottle inside as well. Very, very cool. Nice. So we're going to have to keep our eye out while we walk through this very dense area, not only for Thandi, but for elephants. And while we do that, let's just try and not choke on the dust cloud from Byron, who's racing back to camp for breakfast.
That's so not true, Tristan. I'm trying to look for animals, actually. And I almost found him, but they went and they hid in the bush. I think they're in that very thick block behind us. We saw their tracks the whole way down. But yeah, he must be careful in there. Don't want to bump into an elephant, but I think you know what, elephants aren't that serious. It's more buffalo. I wouldn't want to bump into a buffalo in there, because you're not going to see it. Oh, what was that? It was an interesting bird that just flew there. Hold on. See if I can find it for you. You know, sometimes a bird catches your eye, and it's a bird that, I'm not sure what it was, but it's not one we see often. You get used to regular flight patterns and regular shapes and colors. Where did that little bird go? I just want to have a look here quickly and just see. There, that's a woodpecker. There we go. But it was quite a large one. Let's see if we can find it. Where did it go? See, like it's not a bird we see regularly. That was quite a big woodpecker. Let's have a look. It keeps darting off. Isn't that it over there? Sorry, Djuma. I think these birds are playing tricks with us at the moment. Try and have a look. I heard a bearded woodpecker knocking, but I don't think this was a bearded woodpecker. And like I said, it's difficult to tell when they're flying. I mean, even when they're sitting, they're difficult to tell. I just want to look at something quickly for you, because that was a very large woodpecker, and I'm leaning towards the Bennett woodpecker. I think Tristan saw one yesterday. But I'm just looking because the size, so it says the size of the Bennett is about 23 centimeters. And then I'll just check golden-tailed, I think it's a bit smaller, 21 centimeters. The other one we have, the bearded. The bearded's smaller. The bearded's 24 centimeters, so that's the biggest of them. So that was possibly the bearded woodpecker. Because it did look like just a large woodpecker. So possibly bearded. But I can't be sure. Tristan saying I should look in the book to ID it. Yes, Tristan, if I had a look at it properly, I would ID it. Tristan, I think he sounds a little grumpy this morning with me. I wonder why. Anna Marie, you asking for tip of the day. I haven't given this much thought for a while. Byron's tip of the day. What can it be? I'll think of it, Anna Marie. Let me think of it for a while, and I'll give it to you shortly. I'll think of something worthwhile. Let's have a look around here. Lovely little area. Nice little pool, mud wallow. I wonder how deep that mud wallow is actually. Perfect spot for animals like rhino or buffalo to go and wallow in. Angie, you asking what the difference between bumbling and ambling and all these random words that we use in the bush. I don't know where the word bumble actually came from originally, but we always used to use it or refer to it as a general term just for a short game drive out in the bush, and usually when we would take staff out. So sometimes the camp staff that don't get to go out as often, we would say, oh, let's take a bumble. Then they'd all jump on a vehicle and we'd go for a little drive and see what we can find and head back to camp before the guests got back. And usually one of the guides who was off would do that. But yeah, I don't know where it came about, or I suppose just bumbling around. And I suppose we're ambling through the bush, you could use both, but yeah, it's just general. I think it's little colloquialisms. Sure, it's a big word. It sounds like Ali's struggling with a bit of signal at the moment, so you can stay with us. Jacqueline, you were saying when I imitate an animal, do they ever call back? No, Jacqueline, no. My imitations are not that good. But, yeah, no. I'm trying to think. You know what? With the odd pearl-spotted owl call, I've had one or two fly in and come and investigate. They are quite territorial. That beautiful whistling call that they do. Something like that. But no, with animals now, I've never had an animal respond because of my imitation. I was oh, beautiful. Hold on. Oh, look at this. I haven't seen one of these beautiful spiders for a long time. I'm going to jump off quickly. Wow, this is a huge web. Look at this. Look at this beauty. I can't even point out clearly because I'm going to touch the web. Look at that. There goes the golden orb web spider. Isn't she magnificent? Because that is the female. That is the female. I want to try to show you how big this female is. Have a look compared to my hand. Almost the size of my hand. You see that? Huge spider. Beautiful colors. That black and yellow. Don't want to disturb her, but that is the female. I'm going to have a look and see if I can find a male on here. The males are much smaller. I can't find a male, but what I've found are these other beautiful little spiders. And I don't know if you'll be able to see them. Sorry, I'm going to just move through here quickly. Because I want to show you one of these little spiders, but I don't think I can get to it. No, I'm going to disturb this web if I try to put my arm through. But they're little spiders called dewdrop spiders. I think dewdrop or mercury spiders, sometimes I think they refer to, because they get this really beautiful silver back that it looks like a piece of mercury sitting on the web. Let me just jump back on the vehicle quickly. But those spiders rely a lot on that massive golden orb web spider. So with that female, when she catches her food and she feeds, when she's finished, sometimes those little spiders, those tiny little spiders, they're about this big, mercury or dewdrop spiders, they will go and feed on what she has left. So they're basically kleptoparasites. They sit on the web, they hide away from the female, because if she catches them, she may eat them. And then they'll go and steal food from her once she's finished. But beautiful, lovely specimen. Really great specimen. Look at that. She is huge. Now, the other day we saw the garden orb web spider, and this is, of course, the golden orb web, and you can actually see that beautiful yellowish golden tinge to the web, and it is fascinating. That web is so strong. I've seen little birds get caught in that web before. Just to give you an idea of how powerful that web is. Yeah, Jonathan, you say what a strong web. It really is. And you know what I often try to do is try and find a piece of this web when I've got guests. And I just give it to them and let them feel it. Because it really is, if you just put a few strands together and you wind them together and you pull, you can't break it. It's amazing how strong it is. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the facts were that a single strand of this webbing, if you take a piece of steel the same thickness as the strand of webbing, this webbing is actually stronger. Really is amazing. I think at one stage they were looking to create Kevlar from the same substance. Fascinating little spider. Well, not that little, large spiders, but they're harmless to us. They are harmless. Well, to us, not to insects. Sorry, Kristen, your question. Sorry, Faith, could you just repeat Kristen's question again, please? Kristen, is the spider missing a leg? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I didn't count 6. She's missing 2 legs. Have you? Is it? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She's missing 2 legs. That's not unusual. Sometimes maybe a bird or another spider, maybe when it was younger. It doesn't look like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, no. It's missing 1. I can see the other little one around the back there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, okay, missing 1 leg. That's not too bad. 2 legs, not great. 1 leg is not too bad. There you can actually see those little mercury spiders. Look at that silver, that bright silver. See them hanging on there? Dewdrop spiders or mercury spiders. They look like little dewdrops hanging on the web. Oh, this is really wonderful. Now, I've seen the thing with these spiders is they usually build these massive webs that stretch right across the road. When you're driving, you often don't see them until it's too late, and you then get this huge spider flying through the vehicle. And it's not ideal. I've seen guides jump out of the vehicle before because of these spiders. So even though they are harmless, they are quite intimidating. And then, they are quite scary looking. And then obviously it's not ideal if they land between guests. I think I told you the story once where I had a honeymoon couple, and one of these spiders landed between them, and before I knew it, the husband jumped into the row behind the wife and left the wife next to the spider. She was not too impressed. It was almost the shortest honeymoon ever. Now, Jacqueline, I think it's not quite claws, really, more so it's hairs. I think they've got fine little hairs on those legs, which allow them to hold onto those webs. So I think maybe little hooks, but it's more little hairs that they use to maneuver along a web and hold on. You can actually see all the previous prey right next to that spider. You see what she's fed on already. Oh, look, she's caught something. A fly just landed in the web, and then she's caught it. See how quick she is. Wow. We've just seen a kill. And she's injecting venom. She may just add it to a collection there. I'm not sure if she's going to spin or cover it, spin a web around it. Sometimes they do. Take a bit of webbing, wrap their prey around it. Let's see if she does. No, I think she's just maybe injecting a bit of venom, and then what she does is that venom breaks down the basically the whole body of the whatever insect it is that they caught, and then they drink their food and then suck it all up, basically. Unfortunately, you can't see what she's doing at the moment. I think she's possibly just feeding on that insect that she caught. I see that even the legs of the spider at times get stuck in its own web. See, she was trying to release that long leg of hers. Sure. That was lovely. Wonderful, wonderful little sighting. That's fascinating. I love seeing these creatures and these spiders and that, and so much out here. There's always something interesting to speak about. Alright, well, it sounds like Ali has got some better signal. Let's go and find out what she's up to.
Well, we have found what seems to be a botanical puzzle. Now, I'm not too sure what this plant that we're looking at is, and it's quite big and it's growing in one of the mitre drains. So my first impression when I saw it was to think that it's actually not a plant that should be in this particular area, not a plant that belongs here. But then, per further investigation, we found something that is very similar to one of the plants that we get here. Now, I just want to move it, make sure that I don't get... And it's very hairy. Maybe that'll help us in IDing it later. Very velvety to the touch. But what threw me off even more is this little flower over here. I don't know if Sansa, can you see it? Perfect. This little flower is very similar to the poison apple flowers that we get around, which are normally of a purple color. So I'm tempted to think that this particular plant actually belongs to that family. Now, very big leaves, and the ones of the poison apple that we get around are obviously never as big as this one, and they are a lot smaller. Now, if it is in the same family, they're related to, what's the name of that? They're related to eggplants. So the leaves sort of look like they could also belong in that family, just because very big, very hairy. But I cannot see anything else that would indicate as to what it is. And I haven't been able to find anything on the flower book that I carry as a reference as to what exactly this could be. So I thought that I would reach out, see if perhaps we can identify this bush together. It's about, I'm going to say about 30 centimeters tall. Very, very big leaves, about maybe 10 centimeters long, the leaves. Quite an unusual thing, as well as all of this purple. It's beautiful. It's really, really stunning, but I've got no clue as what it could be. It's the first time that I've seen one of these ones. Perhaps it's something that we've already seen. It's just found a great spot where to grow. It hasn't been bothered by elephants or anything else, and this is why it's so big. Now, again, the flower is the most identifying or the most iconic feature that I can see in this particular plant, because it's exactly like the flower of the poison apple. It's got that yellow part in the middle. Petals are very similar, but instead of being purple, but we do find the purple all around, the flower is actually white. So it's quite an interesting find, this one. I would say that everything points to at least belonging to the same family, but I'm not too sure as to which species specifically this could be, which is quite something. Now, let me show you the poison apple as to what it looks like, and then you'll see why now I'm even more puzzled. Where are you? Now, we've got a lot of things in this book. Alright, sorry, just really at the end, because it's quite poisonous. There we go. So I think it belongs to this particular family of plants, of flowers, because, well, the flower looks virtually the same to this. So it's white in color. However, the leaves, if you can see on the picture above, they're a lot smaller and definitely not the same shape. Or, well, at least they don't have the same serrated edges as it does. There's no fruits on the plant, so we cannot tell if it's even this one, but it's a puzzle. It's actually what it is. It's a riddle. So I'm gonna have to try and identify it a little bit later. But if perhaps there's anyone out there that has got an idea. Gordo, you say that it looks like a Solanaceum, a tomato plant. Could be also. I'm not too sure. I think we're gonna have to, or I'm going to have to go through a reference book, because if it's a tomato plant, it definitely also doesn't belong out here in the bush. In which case we should have to report it so that it gets taken out. And also no fruits at the moment, so quite a mystery, this plant. I'm not too sure as what it could be, to be honest. My first thought was a poison apple, just because it looks very much like that. But maybe Gordon is right, and you've got the ID correct, and it is a tomato plant. I think could be the source of some debate, but very amazing how little things just pop out here and there when the conditions are right. Because it's such a big plant as well. I mean, the leaves are huge, and well, we haven't driven this part of the road before, but we could have in some other season and just completely avoided, or perhaps just in the last few weeks when it's been so rainy and wet that the right conditions have been in place for this plant to bloom this way or to grow this way. Now, if you've got any idea as to what it could be, you can just let us know using the hashtag #SafariLive, and we'd like to put this mystery into the open and find out what it is. Such strange little around us. You see, here's this one with the purple flowers that grows all around us in normally disturbed areas. So you see the flower is very, very similar. You see, it's very similar, but it's got a different color. And the leaves slightly different too. I'm going to carry on pondering about what it is that we're looking at. Hopefully, carry on looking for pictures. And find out where he is.
Well, we are sitting here discovering all kinds of new and interesting things. Now, we found the skull in the bush, and I'm not 100% sure what this animal is. I think it might be a civet skull. It could be maybe a bit big for a white-tailed mongoose, and doesn't quite look the right shape for a jackal, and also not the right shape for honey badger. So I think it is a civet. I found one of the teeth next to it, so you can see it's got quite blunted teeth, so it must have been an older individual, but very, very sharp. And, well, not blunted and sharp, it can't be blunt and sharp, but blunted teeth, but it's still got elongated canines, so it must be a predatory animal. You can also see that there's the triangular-shaped teeth of a predatory individual. Now, the interesting part about this whole skull is not so much the skull itself. It's always cool to find skulls and try and work out what they are, but the damage that has been done to the top of the head. This indicates that this animal was probably killed in all likelihood by a bird of prey, so something like maybe a martial eagle that caught this and pecked through the top of its head into the brain. So you can see that this whole area on top is damaged, and that goes into the brain cavity over there. Now, if it was a hyena or a leopard or lions that caught this, this would have been eaten completely. This whole thing would have been crunched down. There would have been far more damage to the front nasal area. You can see the nasal area has not taken any impact at all, and cats and all of those kind of things are animals that would have eaten here and damaged here quite quickly. So this indicates a situation where it was a bird of prey that fed upon this particular area and must have gone off the brain and kind of gotten into the brain and killed this animal like that, which is pretty insane when you think about it. There was no other bones that we could find. I'm sure over time it got scavenged and broken apart, and there was no fur because obviously this is a very, very, very old skull. I mean, it's weathered quite a bit and has kind of broken a bit in places and has been chomped in some areas. But amazing to think that a bird of prey could have brought down a animal with a skull of that size. I mean, this is not a small animal at all. And so the only candidates I can really think of are crowned or martial eagle. Those are the two that would really kind of go after something like this. Amazing, isn't it? So very, very cool. We'll leave this in the bush where it came from. So we'll throw the tooth there as well, and that can all stay and be a part of the bush itself. Now, luckily where we were when we were waiting for you guys to come across to us was when Byron found his spider. And I'm glad we didn't stay there, because I think we would have got home for breakfast at about lunchtime. Sounded like such an epic spider sighting that he had, and the fact that you guys got to see a spider kill is so cool. So I'm glad that you got to see that, and we've at least made some ground towards home, so we're not too far away at this stage, and we're going to slowly but surely meander our way back up. Still no signs of Tundi though. Herbie's convinced she's in Torchwood and in that area. I don't know if she's our side at all. I also agree with him. We found absolutely no tracks in any of the drainage sections. We checked back and forth, and so it doesn't seem like she's on our side at the moment. I think Torchwood is where she is, and I'm pretty sure she's hanging out there for safety. Maybe she'll come back our side fairly soon. Hopefully she will. It's always nice when we can catch up with Tundi. Good. Right. I'm going to start heading up the hill back towards quarantine side and head up back towards home. But obviously Biceps Byron is already in that area and is heading home quicker than what we are.
Have a look what we've managed to find. VM spotted it earlier, and we're chatting about a porcupine, and we've found a beautiful porcupine quill. Look at that. This one's in good condition. It hasn't been squashed or anything. They can get longer than this, some of them, but this is one of the thick ones. Sometimes the longer ones are a lot thinner. So this is a very, very nice specimen. You can see how sharp it is. And a beautiful black and white coloration. And this is the part that sits in the skin. Now, I've explained it before, but maybe we've got a few new viewers watching, and so I'll do it again. But just how the porcupine quill actually works. So, what happens is, sorry, I'm just unzipping my jacket here because it's a bit warm. Just poked myself. So, with the porcupine quill, what happens is, if you can imagine, this is the porcupine, the skin of the porcupine. The quill sits down in the skin. This part of it joins into the skin like that, so it'll sit in the skin. And then what happens is, if it feels threatened, the porcupine clenches muscles and causes the quills to stand up. So it'll clench its muscles, all those quills stand up, and to protect itself. And then what will happen is it'll run into whatever direction the predator might be. Usually it reverses. So these quills that are standing up will stick right out and into whatever prey and whatever predator is trying to kill or attack the porcupine. And then as it sticks in, it just pulls out and it releases. There is a myth that the porcupines shoot their quills. That does not happen. It is impossible. They cannot shoot the quills. They run into their prey, and this sharp point will stick in. And as the predator, sorry, I keep saying prey, as the predator gets stuck with the porcupine quill, it will pull away, and then this gets released. The quill gets released. So that's how a porcupine quill works to protect a porcupine. You see something here? There's a track over there. Let's see. You would like me to jump off and have a look? Is it this one, VM? Yeah. There is a nice big track over here. And that is from a hyena. As I said, just about every road has got hyena tracks on it. I cannot believe it. So, nice clear double pad at the back. These kidney-shaped toes or bean-shaped toes. And then on this track, I can actually see the claw marks of the hyena too, just over there. Maybe somebody in the final control would like the porcupine quill as a souvenir. So I'll take it with, and they can fight amongst themselves for it. Oh, it's starting to warm up a bit now, thank goodness. Ashley would like a porcupine quill. All right, Ashley. I'm so thoughtful, aren't I, VM? Kenny, now getting back to the honey badger, you asking why is it called a honey badger? Because, and not just a honey badger. Why is it called a honey badger and not just a badger? Sorry. Kenny, I'll give you two guesses. It's because it eats honey. It does raid beehives. They're renowned for raiding beehives. And there's a wonderful story about that. And we've been able to show it to you live on safari before. I remember doing it. Steph has done it before too, where we actually followed. There's a beautiful bird, and I'll show it to you quickly. It is called a honey guide. And let me find it for you quickly. The greater honey guide. this beautiful bird over there. Look at that. That's a greater honey guide. So it's got quite a distinct call. Now, 2 calls, actually. Let me play the calls for you quickly. This is a wonderful story, and I love telling it. Okay, so that's the normal call it does. Sounds like he's saying, Victor, Victor. More or less. I just want to hear if they play the other call. I'm sure they will. I'm going to play it for a second. But the other call is basically a call that it does to follow you. To follow the bird, right? There, this sound. Can you hear that? So that little chattering sound, it does that when it wants you to follow it. And we did it where this honey guide takes you to a beehive. The reason for that is it wants you to open the beehive so that you can get, obviously, the honey. And people do it. They'll go and take some honey. They'll smoke out some of the bees, take some honey, and the honey guide will come down and catch insects or catch the bees and also feed on some of the honey. But it obviously can't open the beehive, so it needs some help. Now, the honey badger has learned to also follow these honey guides from time to time. The honey guide will lead the honey badger to a beehive, and the honey badger, with those sharp claws, powerful claws, can scratch open and break open a stump of a tree or dig a hole open, whatever the case may be, and get to some of the honey. The bees try and sting the honey badger, but it's got such tough skin and it's not really fazed by the bees. It will feed on some of the honey, and then the honey guide will get some honey as well as the bees. So there's a wonderful relationship there. But obviously, honey badger, because it does feed on honey. All right, well, it's been a wonderful morning. Some interesting little things. But let's go across to Tristan, who I think is probably going to finish the show.
Well, we are slowly heading home, Byron. We've managed to climb the hill that comes from the dam up into quarantine. And we have a friend that is on top on quarantine here and is sitting watching us as we approach. So there's a male wildebeest that is taking it very easy on quarantine. I think he's found himself a bit of shade. Now that the sun's come out, it's all of a sudden got quite steamy out here, so wearing long pants and a jersey was not the most clever idea. To finish it was great for most of the walk, but the finishing part of it is not ideal. But at least our wildebeest has found himself some shade. I wonder where his females are. Since the lions came through here, the females kind of disappeared with Footloose and all the rest, so I think he's probably wondering where everybody is. I'm sure they'll join him eventually later during the course of the day, and hopefully this afternoon all of them will be here. It's always nice when you come out and the wildebeest herd is around. But it is that time, unfortunately, where we need to start heading back home because, well, it's the end of our sunrise safari, and so time for the infamous breakfast that we always talk about and joke about. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to see a racing Byron coming past me any second now, and, well, I'm sure shortly followed by Ali. But it's been an epic morning. Well, we've had fun. Hopefully you guys have had fun. There's been a little bit of everything all over the place, and generally there's always a bit of laughter as well in all of it. So from Byron, Ali, myself, all the cam-ups, Faith in FC, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we hope to see you all this afternoon on a hopefully sunny Sunset Safari.